Hello, everyone. This is Mayor Deirdre Waterman addressing you again. We were scheduled to have a special meeting this morning in which the City Council 3 days ago had asked, 3 business days ago, had asked IDS and ALC to prepare the business package, all the bids for the Phoenix Center project, which you know we have talked about. Some of you are interested in knowing where this is in the scheme of things. You know that we had already gone ahead with council's approval to do $7 million of the work, and those bids are out, and I will tell you where that is right now. But in addition, 3 business days ago, council reversed themselves and asked IDS now to prepare for you the whole volume of documents related to the fulfillment of the settlement agreement terms. Those are on the frame in front of you right there. And in 3 days, business days, they were asked to prepare all those documents that generally would have taken several months to do. Because of the heroic effort and because they are prepared to do that presentation, I know many of you want to know the full scope of what needs to be done for this important issue for the city of Pontiac. We have gone ahead and arranged this videotape so you can see the presentation. And so council can also see the volume of information that is there and available. And with that, I'm going to introduce at this point the councilwoman from the 3rd District, Mary Petola, who was at the special meeting this morning that was canceled because council did not have a quorum of members to be able to give the special meeting. Good morning, Councilwoman Petola. Would you like to make a comment at this time?
Good morning, Madam Mayor. And good morning, everybody. There's 12 people attending this meeting, including myself. And I want to thank specifically AUK and IDS for all the hard work that they've done in this last 3 days when the council president and the council as a whole asked you to present these papers to us in a 3-day time. I understand that there was power issues. I have power issues where I was working out in Troy. So I definitely know it was not fun coming home. But I want to thank you guys very much for everything you did. I apologize that this was put on you at the last minute. We should have come to you back in May and asked you for these paperwork in this fashion as opposed to asking you on Tuesday. That wasn't even a week ago, and yet we see what's on that table and how much there is. Thank you for all the hard work you're doing. Thank you for the excessive work you did this week. And Mr. Gibb, Attorney Gibb, excuse me, thank you for everything that you've done with this map, because I know it's not been easy. Have a good day.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And at that point, I will turn it over to Matt Gibb, who has been special counsel to help with this particular matter that is of extreme importance for the city of Pontiac. Also, I would like to say that the documents that you see that were produced by IDS and ALC, they will be forwarded a copy to the interim city clerk. The interim city clerk, as you know by the charter, is the secretary for the council, and the clerk can produce those documents and make sure that each of the council members does have their own copy, as they often want that. With that, Matt Gibb, will you take it from here?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and good morning to everyone. Just a quick background as to how we got to the request for this morning's special meeting and now the cancellation of that meeting. The council did finally hire IDS as its professionals for architecture and engineering services in late March. And with the help of AUK, we were able to get that contract secure. Those two great firms, AUK and IDS, have really accelerated the total package of what is required for the Phoenix Center, such that on May 1st, we were able to give a very comprehensive presentation to the public and to council that included the entire scope of what it would take for the city to meet its obligations. A request was made that the city council support a full funding opportunity for the work that's necessary and critical to get this done. In lieu of that request, the city council decided that they would only partially fund the work. So in late April and May, we took an opportunity to say, what can we do? And the direction was essentially broken into two pieces. IDS and OC had to change all of the work they had done up to that point in April, or in May, I should say, to move forward with only being given $7 million to be funded for the work. Heroic work was done then as well to change this so that it would be, instead of an entire scope package, into two pieces, bid work for the first 7 million, knowing that we had to complete the rest. All of that work had proceeded. On June 6th, the presentation was given that bids were being submitted and out for the structural work, for temporary electrical work, everything that these good professionals had really analyzed and designed, and including in my experience and others with development experience and legal experience as to what was necessary at that point. On June 13th, we were going to give a presentation as to the status of those bids. Right now, presently, on behalf of the city, that $7 million worth of critical work, those bid packages have been out. They've been favorably received in large part because the funding was behind the bids. It's such a critical element. On June 13th, we asked the council if we could give an updated presentation, and it was removed from the agenda, much like we had offered early on in the process that in April and in May to have special meetings with council so that they could understand the scope of the work. All of that was either removed from the agenda or not taken advantage of. So when we got to June, those meetings were again removed. Last Tuesday, I was able to give a presentation to council that said, here's the status of everything that's been prepared by OC and IDS, the status of the bids. At that time, the council, through the council president, indicated that they wanted to see the entire scope of work and the entire RFP and the entire bid packages. It's a completely abnormal request in this industry. It's not in accord with the policies and the procedures of Pontiac, but much to the credit of IDS and OC, you can see on the screen, a substantial effort was made on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this past week. And as you've heard from Councilwoman Petola, the fact that one of these good companies lost power for much of that time period to deliver. So that's just a quick summary of where we're at. I'm sure that IDS and OC in their presentations will go through where we're at with bids. So Mayor, with that, I think that's a summary of how we got to this point, and I'll tender it back to you to introduce IDS and OC.
At this point, before I introduce the president of ALC, Vince DeLeonardis, for his presentation, I would also like to state, as Matt Gibb did, the request from the council to have all of the RFPs for a project is entirely abnormal. It is not unusually and customarily. The reason that we did a seed to this and put IDS and ALC to this heroic effort is because we wanted to do anything at this point in time to save the city from this financial embarrassment of default. So this is not usual and customary, and council, although they requested this, then didn't even come to hear the presentation. So we will hear that at this time. Vince Leonardis, would you take over from here? Thank you for coming from ALC and for being our project manager, and then you will handle the presentation from IDS as well, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor, and certainly appreciate all the support, of the city. Certainly, Councilwoman Petola, we appreciate you being here as well. The current status is that we were out for bids for our bid pack 1, which is our structural repairs, bid pack 3, which is the lighting of the tunnel area, and bid pack 4, which is the general trades architectural work required to support those activities I just mentioned, along with the plumbing work to stop the storm water from entering Orchard Lake Road during large rains, along with the life safety items of the fire protection work required in the Phoenix Center parking garage. So we're out for bids, and what's very important is that we maintain the credibility within the bidding market that this project is moving forward. Since the very beginning of ALC being brought on, even before the architectural design services were solicited, we indicated the importance of having the funding in place so that the respondents had the confidence that their time being spent to prepare their bids, which is substantial, especially in a busy market, that work will be there to be performed. So the commitment from administration to support the design effort allowed for that to be onto the street, and we received excellent proposals, excellent coverage, which was demonstrated by that commitment. Okay. IDS has done an excellent job of preparing the packages because a project of this scope was always envisioned to be put out for bids in phases. And back in, say, late May, early June, when the council committed the funds of just over $7 million to finance it, we prioritized those packages and presented that on June 6th, which included those packages I mentioned earlier that we're out for bid for. So we look forward to meeting the requirements of administration to support the council with information so that come August 4th, the council will be in a position to approve those contracts for that extremely critical work that's aligned to satisfy partially, because we only have partial funding, the settlement agreement, and then most importantly, the life safety concerns for all those that function in and around the Phoenix Center. Those structural repairs, adequate lighting in the tunnel, which has been raised by council, is very important, along with those fire protection items. So with that, with the direction of council and administration, we've been following pretty much what our program was the completion of design. So we would be prepared to put out those 2 final packages for bid. And actually one of those packages, IDS has already completed. That would be the elevators. And then I will let Dave DeSuccio of IDS go ahead and summarize the balance of the work that is being designed. Thank you.
Thanks, Vince. You did a great job of kind of walking through the bid packages that have been prepared. As you mentioned, we took a little bit of an about face at council's direction to prepare a package that would fit within the $7 million funding that was provided. Those were the bid packages you described: the structural repairs, the underpass lighting, and fire protection work and general trades work. And that's what's actually on the street right now. Bids are due shortly. The other packages that were required to meet the settlement agreement are at various phases of completion. The large one is the elevator repairs. All the elevators are not operational in the facility. That bid package is complete and will be bid when funding is made available. The last bid package is very close to completion, just within a matter of days. It's called Bid Pack 5, and that's the electrical infrastructure work of the facility, deck lighting, and then we have some miscellaneous mechanical and electrical work included in that also. That pile of paper that you see in your screen is representation of all 5 bid packages. Again, the last one being in the 95% complete phase, but implementation of that obviously exceeds the $7 million that has been funded. The balance is another 7 plus. But that is the scope that is necessary for the city to meet the settlement agreement requirements. So we are ready to put that on street with AUK's assistance. They're ready and willing and able to get that out there once the additional funding is made available. It's been a pleasure working with the city in all of this. We've, as most projects do, they take a few twists and turns, but it has come together very well, and look forward to seeing this through fruition.
Yes, and thank you very much for your presentation and for your patience with, as you say, these twists and turns, which have been more like a giant maze for you to get through. And I thank you for the professionalism to go ahead and to do that and to accommodate. Have patience with some of these aberrations of normal process.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes. The most important thing, though, is this is doable for the city. This is important for the city. This is a win-win to have this settlement agreement. And, you know, once again, the ball is in council's hands to be able to move forward. They've said a lot about what they don't want to do. Now they've got to do, their job is to do something, do what they will do. So we're waiting for them to announce that. So in the meantime, we're moving ahead and trying to stay in some kind of time frame. The fact is that they're way behind the time frame. And having asked for this presentation and not being able to receive this morning, I will send an email to Council President and say, does he want to now add this presentation that he didn't have a quorum to hear this morning onto tomorrow's regular council meeting as an add-on agenda item. If I don't know what your availability is to do the presentation again, Dave or Vince, that's why I went ahead and recorded it. So if you are not able to physically be present, we can at least have this presentation to show at that time. And then, you know, be there to answer questions. But I just want to keep this moving forward. Matt, I think you had some closing comments to say as well.
Just very briefly wanted to follow up on something that David DiCuccio from IDS said and Vince said this too, that the project is being phased on purpose because the extremely qualified professionals are guiding our city that way. And this next phasing of bid work, Dave said something very critical is that really can't go out to bid until there's a funding source behind it. The marketplace right now is such that you're not going to get qualified or interested bidders in any of this scope of work. There's too much volume of work that because of the Corona COVID-19 slowdowns and crisis, that if firms were going to look at giving us good competitive bidding process within this structure, they need to have complete certainty that what they're bidding on is funded. And that's a big question right now. And Mayor, as you're alluding to, that is in large part what's resting with council right now, is that they have not given a commitment that they will fully fund this necessary work to satisfy the obligations the city has towards the Phoenix Center and the obligations. So I'm just reemphasizing that, Mayor. People may ask, well, why don't you just push the bids out if you've got that big stack of paper? And it's just impossible. It's not realistic in a construction sense. It's not in any way normal in a way that something like this would get bid. You must have some type of funding. And that's what triggered this sudden and irrational movement at Tuesdays nights, was the administration very properly pushing council to say, this is the status of the bids. This is all of you funded. This is what's left. And this is the reality of what's left. We must as a city come up with that funding before IDS and I can really in confidence go out to the market. So I just wanted to reemphasize that the council must participate to support how the city will pay for the balance of that work. And that's a critical question. So I wanted to add those comments. Thank you, Mayor.
We're entirely in agreement with that, as well as many of the people who have been watching this from afar, who are part of the steering committee, who have said this doesn't make sense the way that we're going about this right now. That council has said only do part of the terms of the settlement agreement because the $7 million is only, as we said, a third of the amount that we need to meet the terms of the settlement agreement. And by fixing the $7 million and doing that part of the bidding only, that may eliminate our financial capability then to go out and get the rest of the funding to complete everything else from the settlement agreement. But once again, that was in council's hands. That's the decision. And so we will go about that. Now, one of the other things that you said, I also want to reemphasize, is that it's council, as that we are waiting for them to come up with a method to finance the settlement agreement terms. They have said that the only thing that the administration has put forward is bonds. That is not correct. We have given them all kinds of options, but they got to take one. They got to pick one. If they don't want to do bonds, they got to come up with something that works. And so far, they have not. All it is just complaining about the things that we put forward. In fact, they had someone come present at council last week who wanted us, originally his thing was for us to take out the bonds and give them to him so he could go buy the Ottawa Towers and own the Ottawa Towers. So that was not a viable option. We are continuing to seek out other options. In fact, there are maybe some interest from Charles Stevens has on his end that might involve the city. So we're not closing any options. We're not just talking about bonds, but what the council has to do and what the city has to recognize, and I hope people will continue to push forward, is they have to come up with something. Now, I continuously tell Council President that, in fact, over the weekend, as he was threatening to cancel a special meeting of his own accord, which he can't do viably. That's why we had that charade this morning of their opening the meeting for 2 minutes and then closing it right down, 2 seconds, and closing it right down again after a roll call. But I said to him, I think what council is doing is from what the letter from the Ottawa Towers owner seems to imply, is that council is deliberately putting the city in a path to default. And I said in my email to him that this was like Silverdome deja vu all over again. And he sent back an email saying that I guess he was assuming I meant by deja vu that when the Silverdome had, we had to have 2 blasts to bring it down. So he sent back an email saying that I hadn't used enough dynamite the first time to blow down the Silverdome, and so it was my fault. And I had to send back a corrective email saying, no, Council President, deja vu, I wasn't talking about the fact that Adiamo had to go back the second day and put in more dynamite. You're right. What I was talking about was something more austere. And that was the fact that years ago in the 80s, that the city council had options, 3 options to buy the Silverdome for $20 million. And what happened was, and these were from reputable investors who had different plans, proposals. The council, just like they're doing now, dillied and dallied and they went back and forth for 9 months or a year. And so all the investors got disgusted and walked away. So instead of getting $20 million, and you know the rest of the story, Pontiac, instead of getting $20 million, which probably would have kept the city out of financial bankruptcy and maybe away from emergency manager. But instead of taking those options and doing their job as councils to act in the best interest of the city at that time, instead what happened was we had an emergency manager that came in, and you know the emergency manager auctioned off the Silverdome for $583,000. So instead of getting the $20 million, which would have helped the city so much at that point of time, the city only got $583,000 for it. And somebody else has cashed in. The owner of it now, as you know, has now negotiated with Amazon, which is taking the site. And who knows what the owner got from Amazon, but I know he had it for sale for $30 million. So the city got $583,000, could have gotten $20 million, but somebody else got tens of millions. So that was what I meant by Silverdome deja vu over again. Council President, let me send you an email so you can be advised that that's what that is. And what I'm saying is that what is going on now in terms of council's delay, in terms of coming up with a decision and a well-regarded course of action is deja vu. What happened with the Silverdome may happen with the Phoenix Center if we don't get a plan of action in place that is sensible. Thank you all for being here. We will proceed as we had planned, and this will go out for the public. Public, you can still send your comments to City Council. They were handling them all virtually. You had to send them in by email to public comments. And I know some of you who sent them in last week didn't get heard on public comments. That's because the clerk is now saying that he switched his plan of action. And instead of sending them by email, if you want to make public comment, you can deliver your public comment to the clerk's office by 5:30. I assume he's still reading that. He hasn't really given us directions on that, or that you can be part of the Zoom conference to read it yourself. So with that, we will move forward. It's a good day in Pontiac. We hope that we can continue to move forward in a positive way for the Phoenix Center, but once again, we're waiting for council to act responsibly. Thank you all for being here. And with that, this is Mayor Deirdre Waterman. Have a great day.